Matt Alba.
What's up, Rakush?
Oh, I didn't want my government name out there like that.
Okay, you know what? I'll bleep it in the edit.
Okay. All right. Matt, here at Saturday Morning Arcade, here in the Mistake Zone, we try to be honest with our listeners who, they invest a lot of time with us. And, we want to tell them some big life updates. We want to tell them when some things happen in our life, cool, not cool. I will leave it up to the audience to decide whether this is cool or not cool. But you might notice that regular show founder, show host Jaren is not here right now. So I just kind of wanted to provide a bit of an update on that, Matt. It actually turns out that late last week, Jaren made the decision to buy One Piece figures without knowing what characters they were, and then he found out the names of the characters. One of the characters that he bought a figure for was Monkey D. Luffy. I don't know if the audience knows about him.
I don't know. That's kind of an obscure one, I think.
I mean, I understand, So, I mentioned this to Jaren, and then I think Jaren kind of felt like he needed to prove himself. And so he's gone on this special journey now to start watching One Piece. And, that is a commitment. It's about 1,000-something episodes, 1,600 chapters. He's decided to both read and watch it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, you might not hear from Jaren for a while. Something like specifically maybe 7 days. Sorry to the folks. You're stuck with, me, Rakush, today in Jaren's place. I've already watched One Piece, so there's no fears of me disappearing for a long time, except for when I just am not on this show for months at a time. That's a different story altogether. But yeah,
I've already made my peace with not liking One Piece, so I'm probably not
right. You're saying that right now until you pick up a Boa Hancock figure like Jaren did, and then you find out that Boa Hancock and Nico Robin are not the same characters, and so he has to go and explore. He has to go find the One Piece, and. Yeah.
Rakush, I have a genuine question about One Piece.
Yes.
One of my major gripes with One Piece is how slow the kind of path towards One Piece goes.
Okay.
How close are they to finding One Piece now? I guess what is the actual date today?
Today is June 1st. Yes, we're into June 2024.
Yes, June 1st, 2024. How close are they to finding One Piece?
Do you care about spoilers?
No, absolutely not.
I guess for the audience, a little bit of a 2-minute spoiler warning or whatever, check the episode description to see how long the spoiler is. They are doing a lot of big reveals right now in this current arc, specifically with the Void Century and some of the history of the world is finally getting revealed in a way that is setting up the end game, essentially. So you're now actually getting to a point which, there's a lot of gray in my beard nowadays. We're finally at a point where we're about to find out what the One Piece is within the next probably 5 or 6 years, I would say. So that sounds like a lot for any other show or manga, but for One Piece, that is just a drop in the ocean. So we're not that far off. We finally are in an arc with Dr. Vegapunk, who for 20-something years has been hyped up and absolutely delivered. So
okay,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so I hope Jaren's not listening to this because then it's a big spoiler for him as he's on his journey to explore the One Piece. So yeah. And no, Jaren, Nico Robin and Boa Hancock, not the same characters.
Wait, did he say that to you?
Yeah, he sent me a message earlier today. That was great. That's great, Jaren. Keep doing it then. Yeah, dude. He's made his dubious choice.
Damn.
Matt, I'm here to talk about one of my dubious choices today. This is the Mistake Zone, so I felt what better place to talk about a mistake than in the Mistake Zone. Matt, I bought MLB The Show 2024 on the PS5. I've picked it up last November. I don't know if I've been on an episode since then, but I have a PS5 now. Great console, probably my favorite console since the PS3 because it felt like when the PS3 came out, there was a legitimate sort of next gen feel to it. There's an evolution of stuff. The PS5 kind of gives me the same vibes, honestly, in a way that I didn't get from the PS4 as far as technological advancements and stuff are concerned. So I feel like that the PS5 is kind of what in many ways I wish the PS4 was. I just don't know if the technology was ready to take out like for the PS4 to be this.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been playing like quite a few games, and one of the things I definitely wanted to do was get the latest MLB The Show because it has been a very long time since I played it. The last time I played it was on the PS3, I believe. I actually skipped all of the PS4 MLB games. So I was really excited to try this one out, even though like for the last couple of years I have heard a lot of anecdotal things about just how not fun the game has been or how repetitive the game has felt.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways I kind of felt like, hey, I haven't played this for like almost a decade, if not already a decade plus. Because I can't remember the exact year that I played it. So I was like, okay, like I feel like some of these things about it being too repetitive might not apply to someone who hasn't played it for that long. And I feel like what has really surprised me the most about like the last month of me playing this game since coming back from the trip is how repetitive this game fucking feels, dude. Like it took me about a week of playing the game for me to be like, oh yeah, like this all feels extremely familiar in a... At first, a little bit of nostalgia was at play here, of course, but it wasn't long-lasting. Like, it was very much just sort of like, this just feels repetitive. This just feels like what I played 10 years ago, which is a bit of a concern because, like, what have they improved in the last 10 years, right? And admittedly, like, I haven't played all of the game modes. Like, I played this one called Road to the Show. Road to the Show is where you create your character, like, you play through the season, stats go up.
The idealized Rakush, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. With, like, long-ass hair and jerry curls and, like, hitting 60 home runs a season. Yeah, like, things I normally do anyways. Like,
yeah.
It's very accurate to real life. To the point where my character is 220 pounds as well. So.
Oh, true.
The thing that, like, in the Road to the Show is I personally don't feel like there's a lot that has changed or improved. Like, I'm going off of memory here, and I have a memory of a goldfish nowadays. So, like, what do I remember from 10 years ago? Not a lot. But, like, equipment is kind of, like, the big thing here. And, like, the stat progression is, like, okay. But, like, very kind of one-note progression. There's no real, like... There's no real benefit, for example, for, like, your character having a season under his belt. Except for just, like, your stats increasing, right? Which is fine. But, like... Matt, like, how much do you know about off seasons in sports? Like, what athletes do in off seasons?
Not that much.
Give me what you think athletes do in the off season.
I think that they casually play their sport and they go on vacation.
Okay, casually playing the sport is, of course, like yes, like rec league stuff. Like if like I'm a big basketball fan, so like, what do they do in the summer? They go to the gym, they play, they work out. Like they work on their shot, they work on their defense. It's all kind of part of like that casual experience, but then it is all with the intent of like improving, right? Like you come into the new season being an improved 3-point shooter. You come into the new season having a better control of your fastball in baseball. You come in to like, the latest season of the NFL being like 10 pounds heavier and stronger, more core strength. So like you're not pushed around so easily. There's no real thing like that with Road to the Show.
Oh,
it's just like there's an off season that's like 3 months long that you can essentially skip. Like there's no reason for them to even show you the calendar, like zooming through the dates that shows you like skip to date kind of stuff that sports games normally show. There's nothing really that's part of the off season that improves your skills in a way that's like playing Road to the Show for like 10 seasons, 15 seasons, 20 seasons feels a little bit unique each and every year kind of thing, so like there's a lot of just like one-dimensional aspects to this game that make it feel boring. And like maybe I was a little bit too harsh in the beginning by saying, I don't know if I said it was shitty or whatever, but like it's boring. I think more than anything else, it's boring to me, and like I don't know, man, like it got me thinking about just kind of like the limitations of like growth in like annual like franchise games, right? Like what are like new things that you can see year over year in like a game like that and stuff like that. And I guess like I want to throw it to you for a bit as well, right, Matt? Because like I want to ask you like what your experience with annual franchises is, although assuming it might be a little bit limited.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really play too many annual games anymore. I think at best, I'm playing things that are more so you'd consider like a franchise type game. You know, just like thinking more so about stuff like Assassin's Creed. Like, I was originally thinking Mario games, but Mario games actually don't come out that often. They are really just one per Nintendo, like,
one or
console.
two per generation. Yeah,
and yeah, no, I don't think I really have like too much experience with annualized or like games, but like I think that first off, Rakush, the way that you were describing kind of like the off season, are you saying that really what you want in MLB The Show is that you want it to be a baseball game and like Persona? It's like
yeah,
you
like
know,
a dating
school system?
sim in the midseason.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, like, going around. Yeah,
Would you
that'd
play?
be a fun game. That would be a
Would
fun
you play
game.
that?
I'm like imagining that right now, and yeah,
Yeah, would you play Persona if instead of going to like, you know, whatever their equivalent of like Mementos is, it's just you know, they're trying to go to, what is it? They're trying to get to, what's the name of that like big Japanese baseball thing?
Koshien?
Yes.
the high school. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's Koshien.
Oh man.
So you think
I'd play that.
I would play that too? Because like, if you really think about what like a baseball video game is, it's just turn based.
Mhm. How superpowered, if it was a game like this, how like quote unquote superpowered would you want it to be?
Like, what part of the game is super powered?
I guess like more so. I guess
Okay,
it's sort of
how
balance
about this?
between realistic and superpower between like the actual baseball portion of the game.
So let's backtrack. Let's do this. Let's do this. All right. Let's set the table. Also, Matt, I want you to pitch to me. Get it? Get it? Pitch to me, because baseball. I'm really proud of that one. I want you to pitch to me what a Persona-esque sports game looks like. Like, the different elements of it. Like, pitch it to me.
Okay, so obviously you're going to have the calendar system from Persona where, you're kind of like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing today, and like that is going to affect my stats in some way. Like usually your stats or something related to it in some way. I think that instead of, the major boss that you're going to fight, it's a major game that you're like building up to.
Okay.
I think that for the S-Link, all of the people on there are going to be people on your like
for
sports
those
feed.
who haven't played Persona, like describe what an S-Link is.
Rakush, I don't think there's anybody who listens to the Mistakes Zone that hasn't played Persona, but an S-Link is basically just you interacting with a party member, and you're making kind of
Relationship.
usually dialogue choices to increase your relationship with them, and once you hit a certain like amount of, I guess, like dialogue points or relationship points to that character, you level them up, and they become better in some way, or that bond like helps you in some way usually.
Road to the Show has that with your teammates.
Oh, okay. You have S-Links in Road to the Show.
Basically, yeah. Like, you might actually be selling me on Road to the Show a lot more just by helping me visualize it like a Persona game.
Okay.
But no, it has like relationship systems. To be honest, I don't know how it works on the back end, because every time it's kind of like increased between like me and another teammate, it's felt very random. Like, I actually don't know how that whole system works, but you can have like basically like increased stats because like there's like certain players that are on the field at the same time as you. So like that's S-Link.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's S-Links. And then what else would you kind of pull over from Persona? I would wonder if you... Okay, so this goes into how superpowered do you want it to be? Like, do you want it to be, I guess, in terms of anime, semi, like, realistic in terms of... I'm trying to think of, like, a realistic-ish anime.
You're basically asking, do I want it to be NBA 2K or NBA Jam?
Yes. I also think NBA Jam would be, in my head, the middle point of the superpowered scale.
Do you think that's a middle point?
I think that's the middle point, because in my head, I was comparing it from like, in my head, like I think the real-ish end would be something like Cross Game, where they have like no real powers, I guess. And then you step into something like Major, where they have, named attacks, I guess, for lack of a better word.
So like your signature pitch, for example, is like a fastball or like a knuckleball. Yeah.
And then I think NBA Jam would have been the next equivalent step up.
Okay.
And then you step into something like Kuroko no Basket, where, they have very clearly special moves and, there's like God.
You think NBA Jam is more tame than Kuroko no Basket?
In my head, NBA Jam is really like, hey, you're like turning into like fire, you're jumping like 1 billion feet in the air.
Yeah.
And I think like that is the end of it. You don't have techniques that let you, force someone to ankle break. You don't have techniques to always land threes as long as you're like on like the other side of the court.
So you might be looking for something more along the lines of like NFL Blitz.
Maybe Blitz. I think and like the very far end I was going to say is Prince of Tennis.
Prince of Tennis is not the far end.
Prince of Tennis, I think, is the far end of sports.
I got one more.
What do you think goes?
Blue Lock.
Blue Lock is not.
I think Blue Lock is because of the whole concept of putting 15 strikers on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, as a like sports junkie, like that is such a ridiculous concept.
No,
to me, that's crazier than that. Captain Tsubasa is another one.
Captain Tsubasa actually is a very good.
I think Captain Tsubasa
is like past Blue Lock for sure. I think that is like I think that might be a little bit past like Kuroko no Basket.
Listen,
I don't think it goes past Prince of Tennis. Prince of Tennis goes crazy because they have literal like world-shattering abilities.
Captain Tsubasa had a gacha game on like Android devices.
Mm-hmm.
It probably still exists. I was playing it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this move is in the anime or not, but one of the characters' signature moves, I can't remember his name, is he kicks the ball, but he's standing on top of the ball. So when he kicks the ball, he's riding the ball along with him.
Mm-hmm,
Okay,
mm-hmm.
I think that is as far on the other end of the cross games like spectrum as you can get. I would say.
I don't know. There is an ability within Prince of Tennis where a guy basically commands gravity to pull the ball towards him. There is an ability where they, are smashing to the point where this is, I guess, like a question of imagery or not, where they're like kind of like, they're literally breaking, they're like killing dinosaurs. There's literal, and I know the next one isn't imagery, it's a literal thing that happens in the game where they are playing tennis so hard, they're collapsing the building.
I still think Tsubasa is on the other end of it.
Okay.
But that's an interest. We'll keep those like grouped up, like Prince of Tennis, Tsubasa is like on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Cross game is on like one end of the spectrum. So okay, I think they're two different. I think they're like two different games, right? Like you've got simulation.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, if we're doing just like Persona simulation MLB the Show, then MLB the Show is not that far off, except for whatever you're doing on off days or like within the off season, because literally it's like, okay, if you're strengthening up before a game, they already got like on your off days like batting cages or bullpen sessions, which increase your stats. So if you're fighting like, if you go to like a batting cage or a bullpen, a mini game, like MLB the Show is already kind of on like the cross game spectrum, or on that side of the spectrum. So that's like one kind of game, but then like you could absolutely do like a Tsubasa-esque game where it's like you hit the home run and like it's arcade style and like it's you basically build up the power by like taking pitches. So like by the time you're on ball 3, the meter is full. Or like if you are like at your 4th at bat and you've taken a certain amount of like balls out the strike zone, then like your meter is full so that you can hit like a no doubt home run at some point. It's almost bringing fighting game mechanics into it at that stage. What do you think?
I would rather play an arcadey game.
I think so.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's also where Persona the Show ends up going.
I feel like Persona the Show, if you're combining those two games specifically, ends up where you think NBA Jam is. Because I also don't think Persona as a game is that bonkers.
Oh, you know what actually might be a better like idea or like relation? Maybe what was the name of the Mario baseball game?
Yeah, All Stars.
Oh, All Stars. Yeah. I guess
Strikers
that's also
is a soccer game.
Yeah, I guess that's also within the kind of like NBA Jam-ish.
Yeah,
territory.
it's in that same area. Like all those Mario sports games, I would say kind of fall in that same sort of zone.
I think that would be the sweet spot for what this game I would want this game to be.
Which, like, back in the 90s, they used to have arcade games that were, like, very much, like, exaggerated things. Man, that would be like fun as hell, right? Like having a home run derby in this game could be like so much more fun than just like mashing square all the time and like, just timing things correctly. Like I like going back to like, just the critique of MLB the show, right? Because I think at the end of the day, it's just a boring game. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still playing it because there's this like weird calming repetition that comes with playing sports games and like stuff like that, that it's like even when it's boring, like I can kill a lot of time just playing it. And like whatever, like it is what it is as far as like it's not gonna get any better, but it also isn't gonna get much worse. This game does have bugs, don't get me wrong. Like there's a lot of things that I've found that are just like paper cuts that if I were playing this year over year and like those issues existed last season in last season's game and it exists in this season's game, I would be pretty upset about it, right? Like, I don't know if that's the case. That's like a big thing here. But
like, what's an example of like one of these things?
So there's small bugs. For example, like if I'm playing in a sped up mode of the game, by sped up I just mean like no highlights, no things happening, this and that. If someone hits a home run off of me in the sped up mode, then and when I'm like just kind of skipping through like, the animations of like running the bases and stuff like that, there's a lower third that usually pops up where it says home run, player name, and like all that shit.
Yeah.
But it's going so fast if I keep like skipping like, all of the standard celebration animations, sometimes like that just stays on screen and doesn't disappear. Or another big issue that I've found, well, there's a couple of issues. Specifically like Road to the Show only because again I haven't really played the other modes, I haven't played online and stuff. Road to the Show, it's only your player moments, so like you're not playing as the full team, you're just playing as your player. So if you're only batting in a game, it's gonna skip to like whatever your at bat is and stuff like that. However, there's a bug where the opposition pitcher's pitch count doesn't actually go up in between at bats or like doesn't go up as much.
I see.
So even for example, like if I'm on first base, right? Like, and I know that the pitch count is at 39 when I get on first base. It will cut to whatever the final or second last pitch of the other guy's at bat is. So it'll be like a 2-2 count. On a 39 pitch at no, if there's a 2-2 count, it should add up to 43.
Yeah.
It still stays at 39.
I see.
So like those kind of bugs play a role as well, because if you're not actually increasing the pitch count on the pitcher isn't also getting tired, is my understanding of that stuff as well, right? So like how is that working in the back end? Is the pitcher actually getting fatigued? I don't know any of that stuff, right? But like on first sight, it just looks like the pitcher's not getting tired. Another issue is like if I get a hit with base runners on and I'm loading up the bases, a base runner will just disappear out of thin air. There's no extra outs in the inning or anything like that. But like the base runner at third will just disappear.
I see.
Like stuff like that, and there's no explanation for it either. It's just like there's a lot of these kind of things that happen, or even just like presentation bugs where like it will show like the wrong stats for my player in the game, or like the commentator will say something wrong about my player, or like just like they'll say something that's against the flow of the game or whatever it is. It's like there's just like a lot of these kind of things that like, again, if these are annual bugs and you're doing your year over year iteration, you want to try to fix these things, right? Because like what else are you spending your time on? That's a reductive question. I understand, dev time is, of course, like, there's a lot of work that goes into making new games and stuff like that. But if you're on the same engine, you're on the same platforms, you're not really updating player mechanics as much. What are you really updating year over year? And I feel like as a larger conversation, I think you can ask that about a lot of annual games, right? Like, why did Call of Duty kind of become so stale? Like, why are fans so burned out on it? I don't know if the sales are necessarily showing that fans are burnt out, but like critically, like what is it that people are burning out on those games? Why did Assassin's Creed become so boring? Like minus all of the other larger conversations around like microtransactions and stuff like that. What is it about those games that like you are potentially updating, right? And at that point also, I think it's a fair question to ask is like, is it even worth doing annual iterations of these games anymore, except for just making money from a business standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, do you think that like at this point they should just switch over to making this kind of game as a games as a service type game?
I think it's a little bit difficult at this point for like from a business standpoint, right? And again, without getting into too deep into the conversation around the general health of this industry and any industry in general, like skipping anything that makes you money could be a death sentence for that studio, right? And
That's
so, like, I think it's too late in, like, you know, how consoles work and how, like, game releases work. It's too late in, like, that cycle for them to change it so drastically. I think a game like Assassin's Creed could, in theory, do that. But something like... I think so, because that is something that is entirely up to Ubisoft, right? Ubisoft can just say, like, hey, this ain't working, let's take a year off. And I think they've done that in the last couple of years with Assassin's Creed specifically, where they're like...
Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought you meant making Assassin's Creed like a game as a service type game.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But like something like MLB, I don't think you'd be able to do that because it's a licensed game. You can, if you don't make the game, you're losing the license.
I see.
So it's just like there's too many business factors at play that just won't allow them to not make this game anymore. But then what ends up happening is at what point, because I mean it's been kind of the same game now for like 16, 17 years, right? It was amazing back in 2008, 2009. Like there's a reason that MLB The Show kind of became the only baseball game out there. And it's because it was a high quality game. Like the stuff that I'm playing now was revolutionary back in like 2008, 2009. Like it was legitimately like I have never played a sports game this realistic, quote unquote, before, like this accurate before, you know? And that was a great experience and I really enjoyed that. But I guess also like it had to kind of adapt to what the industry is as well. And the industry is like make as much money as possible, sell like, you know, microtransactions, the gotchaification of a lot of these games as well, where it's like there's a lot of focus put on online modes now where like you build your ultimate team, like, you know, with I feel like kind of FIFA made it a big thing with like FIFA Ultimate Team where like, you know, you basically like pull cards and like you get all your like legendary players and stuff like that, right? Or like your super rare cards and stuff. And that's what's happening with the show as well. So it's a little bit difficult for them to kind of go and like revamp the entire experience. I just don't think it's going to happen. That's a little bit sad.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that there's like in terms of I guess just base mechanics wise? Because like when I think about you saying that this has been the same for about like 10 or so years, I also am thinking about the fact that I guess like mechanically, like first off mechanically, what can they do to change? And then I guess secondarily, like, do you think that this is also a limitation just based on how standardized game controllers have become?
So, okay, excellent question, because one of the things I also wanted to talk about is how, like, one-dimensional the gameplay feels as well. Like, there's different controls that you can select, or, like, control types, or, like, if you're batting, there's, like, 3 different versions that you can select. Like, aim the direction you want to hit to, so, like, left field is, like, left, up is center field, right is right field. Or, like, you have basically, like, a... what's the word I'm looking for? A targeting system.
Like a targeting reticle? Or?
Yeah, reticle. You have a reticle for, like, okay, this is where the ball is coming. Move your reticle there. Hit it in the sweet spot, goes for homer. That's the one I'm using. Something I would have loved to have seen specifically on the PS5. However, keeping in mind that MLB The Show now is a multi-platform game, I don't know if they would have been able to do this. It's a little bit of a Nintendo Wii situation with multi-platform games where like you have to kind of keep controls very centralized, but the PS5 has a very haptic feedback controller thing, right? Like when you sometimes hit like your trigger buttons R2, L2, like certain games will have that pressure and stuff. Astro's Playroom was a great like tech demo for that stuff. Honestly, once you play that game, you truly understand what the controller can do. I would have loved to have seen something like that with, for example, check swings. So, Matt, what a check swing is when you're playing baseball and you want to hold your swing because you start a swing, you realize the ball is out of the strike zone, you want to hold your swing so that it's not called a swinging strike. It's called the ball. Honestly, the haptic like controls would have worked fantastic for something like that, you know, where like the total amount of pressure that you're applying on a swing could determine like if you're swinging the bat or not itself. Something like that would have been a great adjustment to make it like, hey, here is a PS5 game, right? Like making it kind of like stand out in that sense. There's probably a couple of other things you could do with that as well. That's the only one that really kind of like is very, very vivid in my mind as far as like I wish they had done this, because the check swing system in this game just kind of feels a little bit random. Again, I don't fully understand what's happening in the back end to make the swing a check swing or whatever it is, but like the controls are literally just like circle is contact swing, which gives you a wider reticle. X is your standard swing, which is just like whatever. And then square is your power swing, but it makes the reticle smaller, which means like you need to be more accurate with where the pitch is going, but more powerful. That's all the controls are right now. The thing is, there's no real big difference between the three swings, I found. Like there might be subtle nuances here and there about like how quickly you're swinging at a pitch, things like that. Bit of an uneducated guess there. But like something like, switch it over to using L2, R2.
Have you ever used the thumbsticks or anything for like
thumbsticks are for the reticle, right? So like you can do that. And thumbsticks also, you can use the right thumbstick to set up which side of the infield you want to bunt. So
I see.
They kind of use it a little bit, but like it just kind of feels like an unfulfilled sort of like thing, where it's like you could do so much more with these games, and it just kind of feels like they fall flat. Like you could add like arcade modes or like make like some of these modes a little bit more unique. Again, like we were talking about doing the off-season stuff like Persona the Show and stuff. There's so much just like there's so much flavor you could add to the game that could make it a little bit interesting. Sometimes it's a swing and a miss, right? Again, see what I did there. Like NBA 2K tried that with story modes and they were absolutely bonkers. Like some of the craziest stories in the last couple of years have been 2K, but it's something. They tried something. It's like, sure, the actual game itself is a little bit bare bones or whatever. There's also limitations to what you can do with sports games. Like, how much are you going to innovate a sports game, right?
Yeah.
But when the technology exists, it'd be fucking cool to see something like that, So, I don't really want to, like, take up too much more time talking about MLB. It's just, like, as someone who's played this game for the first time and as long as I have, and anyone who does listen to this show historically knows like my, my appreciation of baseball, to put it lightly. It was a little bit of an upsetting experience for me, man. Like I paid full price for this game too. So like, it's not like I bought it on sale or anything. I knew I was going to buy it during release because I really wanted to just play as much of it as possible. And I still might play it, but like I'm playing it without feeling impressed, and like it's fine. Like it's just fine, and it makes me a little bit sad that like I'm actually not sure that I'll ever get to experience a sports game in the same way that I was able to experience it like, when I was back in the day, right? Maybe I was able to experience it that way because I was younger. Or maybe I was able to experience it that way because the games were genuinely innovative.
You were less jaded.
Less jaded. Well, I was pretty jaded back then as well. Probably
jaded.
To be honest, I think I was more jaded back in the day than I am
just
now.
like more emo.
Maybe, but I just didn't have the visual aesthetics of an emo person. I don't know, man. Like I kind of like. I was hoping for a little bit of that nostalgia kick, and I just kind of was hit with a little bit of indifference. And yeah, like, I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I hope you never do, but it just kind of sucks.
Honestly, I feel like I just feel that way about games in general.
Like indifference?
Like, a lot of the magic is gone from it being a very new experience. But that is probably just because, like I was saying, like, there's only so many... new mechanics that you can really employ into a game.
I guess so, right? Like, okay, I'm not going to speak about this game on this episode too much, but like before I played MLB The Show 24, I was playing Final Fantasy 16. And honestly, my favorite Final Fantasy game, I haven't played too many, but it's my favorite Final Fantasy game. One of my favorite games of all time, in fact, I would say is Final Fantasy 16. So I know I can still feel something from video games because I felt it recently, right? So like I know that exists, and I think that's why also that indifference like kind of just like feels a little like it feels a little bit more glaring of an omission, like that feeling in like playing a baseball game again. So like I don't know, man. Like is the magic gone in gaming in general? I don't think it has for me entirely, because again, like I'm still playing the DLC for 16 as well, and like honestly, like the set pieces and stuff they do in that game, fantastic. The world building, the characters, really endearing. But like I know I can feel something from games. I just didn't feel it from MLB, so
yeah. I mean, like that. I guess that is like you are the way that you've just described, like your Final Fantasy 16 experience. You didn't really specify specific like mechanics, right? You're more so talking about the art of the game, the set pieces.
I mean, listen,
the characters
for Final Fantasy 16. I could speak about the mechanics, but the mechanics are just like you play as the summons, like as big giant ass kaijus, and like you're beating the crap out of other giant ass kaijus. Like I mean, the mechanics for that are like, like the mechanics of the game aren't all that innovative, I don't think. Like, the set pieces are very innovative. Playing as like, for example, Ifrit is amazing, but like I think like it's just a combination of everything. Even just like, I think that's also one of those games where it makes me understand like the PS5's tech is like quite advanced enough that like the things that we used to consider like like we would only see it in cutscenes back in the day, and we're playing those cutscenes now. And like it's happening so seamlessly as well, like no load times or anything like that. That's the kind of stuff that's like to me really, really impressive, and like it really sticks out quite a bit there as well. So yeah. Okay, Matt, I think it's time. I've spoken about like a game that made me feel something back in the day, something that was near and dear to my heart. I want to ask you about a game that might make you feel something. I want to ask you about Monster Hunter.
Oh, okay, Monster Hunter. Yeah.
Does that game make you feel something?
That game makes me feel like I wish I purchased Monster Hunter Rise Standard.
Wait, explain that.
Rakush, the way that we were playing Monster Hunter Rise was that we were playing it on Game Pass.
Yes.
And then we bought the Sunbreak expansion.
Yes.
Now, I don't keep my Game Pass subscription active. I only turn it on when I want to play something.
Oh, okay.
So I thought, maybe I'll go play Sunbreak. And then I remembered, I have to activate my thing. And then I did activate my thing, my Game Pass, and then I just ended up playing other Game Pass games. And then I forgot to play Monster Hunter Sunbreak.
I mean, also, who are you playing it with? Because last I remember, it was just like the two of us playing it, and I haven't played it in a long time.
Oh yeah, you can play Monster Hunter by yourself.
I mean, yeah, okay, I guess.
A large amount of my Monster Hunter experience is playing it by myself.
You can find people online that also play Monster Hunter, Matt. You're not alone.
Rakush, come on. We grew up.
You were loved.
We grew up in a time when we were taught stranger danger. And I have learned to, stick by that my whole life and not interact with people.
That was 30 years ago, Pat. We're old.
But a lesson can be ingrained within your body. And
are you okay? Is there something you're revealing to us on air right now? Because what got engraved? Like the choice of words that you just used, saying engraved in your body and like stranger danger. It's a terrible combination, man. So I hope like. Do I need to like be do we need to stop recording right now?
No, Rakush, I think I've established on the show that I am incredibly asocial, and I am incredibly hesitant. No, I don't know if hesitant is the right word. I'm inherently aware of
new things
letting
are scary
people down on the internet. Rakush, I don't want to like join a hunt. I think for me, one of the scariest things about playing Monster Hunter online is carding, because everybody shares the same pool of 3 cards, and it is so embarrassing, Rakush, to join a game, go to the monster, land, and then get insta-carded.
What the audience can't see right now, what the listeners can't see right now, is that there are tears in Matt's eyes that I don't think are.
Sweat.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't think he's actually crying, but like his eyes are glistening up in a way that was just like,
I'm just talking about something that is a very real experience.
It's a very sensitive topic for you. I'm sorry.
Rakush, I'm thinking of a specific experience. Rakush, that game that I joined where I Instacarded, that wasn't the only time I carded in that match. And let me tell you, Rakush, in that match, no one else carded.
Oh my god. So Monster Hunter, you love this game, clearly.
Yeah, Monster Hunter's pretty good. Yeah, Monster Hunter's pretty good.
They just announced a new game, Monster Hunter Wilds, for the PS5.
Yes.
Is it just PS5 right now, or is it?
I think it is getting a multi-platform release. I think it
okay.
was just shown most recently through Sony because they did their State of Play.
And I'm assuming the PC version will be later, as has been the case.
From what I understand, it might be
really
concurrent this time, but I'll be honest, I don't think there's ever been a Monster Hunter PC version that's been on the same timing as a console release. So
yeah.
I'm hopeful, but I'm not really expecting it.
No, that's fair. So, Matt, explain to the audience what is it that they have talked about in Monster Hunter Wilds. What is it that it seems like the game is trying to do, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Mm-hmm. So, Monster Hunter Wilds is the 6th mainline game.
Has it only been 6 mainline games, really?
There's only been 6 mainline games. There's 1, 2, 3,
which is the one on the Wii, right? The Try one?
Yeah, Try. There was a Monster Hunter 4, actually.
That was a 3DS game.
It might have been. I can't remember which console.
I think that was a 3DS game.
Yeah, and then World, and then Wilds. Those are the 6 games.
So I guess Rise isn't a mainline Monster
Hunter
game?
Rise is not a mainline Monster Hunter
That's
game.
fascinating.
Yeah, the way there's a certain Monster Hunter has a certain kind of dragon iconography in all of its kind of, I don't know, logos, splash screen for the Monster Hunter
main games.
Yeah, main games. And every time a dragon gets added, that's usually a sign that this is a mainline franchise.
Okay, that was gonna be my follow-up question. It's what makes a mainline game? So it sounds like
it's usually introducing something like a very new thing. Like for World, it was just how having the contiguous overworld was the big thing, because before they didn't have, you would always have to load into a different area inside the same map.
Explain. Sorry, what do you mean by continuous?
Okay, so in Monster Hunter 1, 2, 3, and I think 4.
Yeah.
Is that when you load into a map, you load into a sub area, and then each sub area has kind of a door or something that leads out of it, and then you have to go through a loading screen.
I understand what you're saying now. Yeah. Yes. So the area itself is open world, but it's not bottlenecked by a loading screen.
Yeah, Monster Hunter World, is the first one where it was one big area instead of a bunch of basically rooms as an area. And then that is the reason that Wilds has the theory that this might be open world.
So when you say open world, just to clarify, you mean all of the actual terrains are connected in an open world, so that you don't have to go back to hub world as is traditional with Monster Hunter to go to a new section or new area or terrain of the game.
Yeah, I am in my head visualizing. I think for me, I don't know if this is the same for you, but when I visualize an open world game now, my initial touch point is now always Breath of the Wild. I don't know if your initial, hey, I'm thinking of an open world game has changed or not.
That's an interesting question.
Because for me, it used to be something like Skyrim, but now it has changed to Breath of the Wild.
I think this is an interesting one, but I feel like my answer is a combination of a few games. I think Assassin's Creed is kind of the starting point for me for open world games, where it's the tower system of revealing the entire map and stuff. To me is a big thing there, right? I can't remember if Assassin's Creed did it before Arkham City did it, but that was a big thing that I feel like most games do nowadays is you go to this one central thing to reveal the entire map. And Zelda does that as well, right? I mean, you essentially have to go and do all of that stuff. So I feel like Assassin's Creed is still kind of the baseline for me in many ways. But I also kind of feel as far as the scope of an open world map is concerned, that has changed for me recently, where I would say it's more Horizon, Zero Dawn,
true. Yeah,
Forbidden West kind of thing, as opposed to Assassin's Creed in that sense. So I think it's a combination of those two. Is like where if you tell me it's an open world game, I think of a combination of those two from a map scale and like unlocking sense. So, yeah.
So like, I guess like keeping all the like I guess ideas of what open world is to you in mind. Do you have any like thoughts specifically about Monster Hunter becoming an open world game?
So that's a good question. I'm gonna tie it into something about Sunbreak as well because I kind of want to ask you about like some of the mods that we're using to play Sunbreak too. But like, I feel like there's a couple of things about Monster Hunter that make it Monster Hunter, right? Like I think, the pre-fight preparation for a fight is such an integral part of it all that I almost kind of feel like it's not a Monster Hunter game if you don't go through that process.
Yeah.
So like what I mean by that is like you go back to the hub world, you eat the meal, right? Like like that whole kind of like shtick. Eat the meal. Use the right weapons, the right elements on the weapons. Get the right armor or like, whatever you need to do with the armor and like get the right buffs and stuff like that. Prepping for a fight or an expedition is such an important part of the game to me with Monster Hunter that like if this becomes entirely open world, the first question I would ask about that is what happens to that entire element of the game, right? Like are you as the developer at Capcom gonna still make it so that you have to prep for this? And if so, and you stumble into the wrong part of the open world, are you just fucked? Like, you would be, for example, in an Elden Ring or like, the Souls-like game, right? Like, are you just like foobarred? Or is it that like you're gonna make it so that it's actually a little bit easier for you to manage your buffs and your skills and things like that? And at that point, it's also a game design question of like, is that really keeping the essence of Monster Hunter intact? And I guess I'll throw it back to you for that question, actually. Is like, if that ends up being the situation with the game where it's entirely open world, no centralized thing, and they decide we're going to make it easier for you to manage your buffs and stuff like that, like how would you feel about that kind of change?
I mean, over the course of the Monster Hunter games, they have made the kind of, I guess, like back end, for lack of a better word, easier to manage for the players, whether it be through stuff like a lot more loadouts or simplifying stats, simplifying what I guess stuff you actually need to bring with you, item management in general. And I feel like it is currently at a very nice balance, I guess, within its current like mechanics.
Yeah, it's like a sweet spot.
It's at a very good sweet spot right now, but like it could have been like at a very nice sweet spot in like World, could have been at a very nice sweet spot in 3. It all depends on, I guess, like the game itself. And that is actually a thing I wonder, because it then depends on if they were to keep the essence of Monster Hunter, where you do a lot of pre-prep. I think that you run into the question of, like, I think base camps, like finding new base camps. I think that would be a very interesting way to set up the open world where you can get all your food, get your everything. One of the things that I do remember seeing in the trailer is that they're kind of going around on a skiff of some sort, whether it be like an airship or something.
Yeah,
where that is your kind of base now.
So that ship is actually very reminiscent of what Monster Hunter Tri used to be. That honestly, like, I'm seeing from explaining to the audience the trailer a little bit, is they're in a very sandy area, like a deserty area. That's the terrain that they're showing.
Yeah,
it is. The color scheme is only something I can describe as like Mad Max-esque, like Fury Road-esque, where it's like there's a little bit of vibrancy, but for the most part you're in a desert land. The ship that they're riding, like in the sand dunes and stuff itself, to me seems very much like they're kind of going back, at least aesthetically, to the Wii Monster Hunter game. And which I do want to talk to you about the aesthetics in a second as well. I don't know how I'd feel about a roaming hub world, although it is something unique and interesting. It also seems like their ship gets attacked quite a bit.
Yeah, probably. That makes sense.
So if it's a hub world, and this reminds me of how I felt about Guild Wars 2. Like, if it's a hub world, don't attack the hub world. The hub world needs to be kind of like just a chill space for like people to like dick around in, do absolutely nothing except for like, in between like prepping for like expeditions and stuff like that. Don't do anything there, right? So like if it ends up being that the ship is your hub world and it keeps getting attacked, like how would you feel about that?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I hope it doesn't keep getting attacked because in Rise, while I didn't mind it, I didn't like the kind of like village defense missions. Like, that kind of tower defense-y kind of thing. And I don't really like dealing with that sort of thing. If like, you do it a bit at the start and then you can kind of automate it in the background, I think that's like at most what I would want it to be. But yeah, I don't think I would want that kind of mechanic. But kind of like going more into like a kind of not specifically like super gameplay mechanic, but more so like kind of a back end mechanic. If it is open world, how would you feel about missions not necessarily ending when you like kill or capture the monster?
It's an interesting question.
Like where you have to haul it back in some way.
Yeah, like how alive is the world, right? Like when you kill a monster in a certain region, like one thing with open world games is like open world games tend to have some sort of like update, like at least as far as like narratively it's concerned, like there are some updates to the world as things go along. Like having played Horizon Forbidden West like in the last couple of months, one of the key things is there's different towns, right? Like there's different sections. There is your Los Angeles, there's your San Francisco, there is whatever the green space is. I don't know what city that's supposed to be, but like, wherever like these things are, they're very alive, right? And then like you finish like a certain mission and it kind of changes how the way the towns work, or like how like not the way the towns work mechanically, but like how they look when you approach a town. Like, are the monsters rabid? Are you fighting monsters? Is the sky overcast? Like things like that, right? How alive is the world going to feel in Monster Hunter? Because if it's not going to feel like a living, breathing space, then the open world is going to fail. Yeah, to me personally.
Like I think the thing I would really want the most is something from what was the name of that EA Monster Hunter type game?
Wild Arms?
I don't think it was Wild Arms. It was Wild something.
Wild something. Yeah, Wild Arms is like an old ass game. Yeah, sorry.
But like something that they had in that game is kind of like setting up like points of movement, which I thought was like really cool. Whether it's it's kind of like not pulley systems, but like things like ways to like ride a rope to like the top of a mountain.
Sure, like shortcuts.
Yeah, shortcuts. And I feel like that would be a really cool thing to add if it is an open world.
Yeah, absolutely, right? I'm curious to see more about this game. One thing I did want to ask you about, right? Because we're talking about how fundamental changes to the game can change, like, or can impact the core of Monster Hunter. Something I really wanted to like discuss with you is one of the mods that we use to play Rise and Sunbreak was it wasn't like a cheat or anything like that, but we added the monster's health bar to our user interfaces. A big part of Monster Hunter is not knowing how much health the monster has left.
Yeah.
I am kind of curious though. It's like if we can see the health of a monster, does it not change how we like do inventory management and things like that? And if so, like, are we not fundamentally changing how we play Monster Hunter?
I guess we are like kind of changing how we're playing Monster Hunter. I don't know if that's like that huge of a change. For me, in my head, that's always just been like a quality of life thing. To know like, oh, the monster ran away. Should I just go back and restock now, or just like chase it?
Okay, so I still prefer playing with the health bar. Don't get me wrong. Like, it honestly enhanced the experience quite a bit for what I was looking for from this game. I do kind of feel like there is a little bit of that, like, should I gamble on, like, chasing this monster down element that is missing if you know exactly what the health bar is, right? So I do kind of feel like it does change the experience quite a bit, because if you know that, like, the monster is low, minus the visual cues of, like, the monster limping and stuff that you normally get from the game, like, a couple of hits is going to kill it. You're not asking all those questions, and, like, it's kind of taking a little bit of that strategizing away from the game. Not to an extent that it breaks the game necessarily, because at the end of the day, you still have to be smart about, like, the timing of the moves and stuff like that. There is I do feel like it is taking something out of the game though, where it's like that guesswork kind of adds to the strategy a little bit, and I feel like that's by design from the creators.
Yeah, but like to be fair, specifically in Rise, they did really add that symbol that tells you when the monster is capturable. That wasn't
That
really
was in World.
the other game. Oh, was it in World as
I
well?
think that was in World because I mean I've only played those two games like a lot, and I'm pretty sure it was in World as well.
Okay, because I don't remember that symbol being as prominent in the other games. I do remember like the limping and stuff, and sometimes they would limp before they were capturable. So having that actual symbol is, I think, a really huge quality of life. For
sure,
like Rise,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I am still gonna keep playing with the
Same, like
things.
again, like it's not gonna change how I play things, but like if we're just talking about like if the devs decided to add like the monster's health bar in, I would actually feel some kind of way about it. What makes me a hypocrite? Yes, but I would kind of feel some kind of way, like no, don't do that. The sanctity of the game, like I would kind of feel a little bit off about it. But Matt, I guess like to kind of wrap up the episode with a few more questions here, right? Like I want to ask you, like, what is it that you want to see out of this game? Like, one of the big revelations is the weapon switch system.
Yes, that is the other reason. Like people think maybe it's not going to be open world because maybe the big mechanic is the weapon switching
switch.
system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to see from this game? Like, what do you want to kind of, as someone who's played enough Monster Hunter games at this point, has put in enough hours into some of their more modern iterations too? Like, what would make this a fun and like good game for you?
Honestly, it's just more Monster Hunter for me, right? Like I want to fight cool monsters. I want to use like, cool weapons. I think this weapon switching system is very interesting. And I hope that one of my biggest hopes with regards to the weapon switching system is that you are more required to keep in mind what you're fighting. Because like no matter what you're fighting in Rise or World, just because those are the most like recent ones and those are the ones I have the most time in, you just keep hitting monster till it dies. And for the most part, like it's like you can do that with basically anything and be fine. I really hope that with the with the weapon switching system, once you get into like the G rank equivalent or the late what's the name of the second rank? Master rank? I can't remember anymore. Because there's just the basic one, the like the middle one, and then the one they keep adding in the expansion.
The MR?
I think the master rank is the MR, master rank. Oh, and then G rank is the one that's
right.
I hope that like in G rank it is required. In later master rank it becomes more required, where you need to really think about, am I going to carry a blunt weapon? Am I going to carry an elemental? Am I going to carry or I need to carry a blunt. I need to carry
or like what combination
submarine.
of weapons you might even carry as well.
Should I carry two different classes of weapons?
Yeah. Something I'm also curious about is because it's just an announcement trailer, so we don't know exactly how the mechanics work. But like, would you be interested in seeing like almost like a balancing system with the two weapons? So like, for example, if you do like a broadsword with another broadsword, it hinders movement, or like you do a broadsword with like a dual blade, maybe like it allows for some sort of combination attack, or like some sort of like like it changes how you strategize for the fight or something like that. I don't know if that question makes sense, but it's this idea of almost like some sort of back end, maybe not so back end or hidden like stat increase or decrease on your character based on the weapons that you carry. How do you feel about something like that?
I don't know if I would really want something kind of that specific for like the dual weapon system. I think what I would maybe prefer is that for the people who didn't watch the trailer, the way that you do work with the switching weapons is that basically your mount is carrying the other weapon. I would personally want it so that the weapon that your mount is carrying will affect your mount instead.
Oh, it's like if the mount attacks the monster. That's
like, they'll attack with the longsword. They'll somehow use, your light bow gun.
Sure. Or like at the very least, like it takes on, if you want to kind of simplify the gameplay a little bit so that you're not complicating as a dev, you're not complicating like the game design. Maybe it just kind of takes on whatever element the weapon has in its attacks.
Yeah, and like something like that. I feel like would be better than you are using double greatsword.
Sure,
you're extra slow,
something
or
I would
extra strong, or whatever.
Yeah, this is just kind of like imagining what could potentially happen, but like I guess like speaking of Sunbreak or Rise Sunbreak a little bit is the switch skills, right? And like
Yes,
how switch skills worked in that game. I'm a dual weapon sort of like dual wielder kind of character player, so like I usually love the switch skills because of just how slick and like badass it makes the character look and stuff like that. I guess like I don't know if I can see switch skills coming back in this game, but maybe what can replace it is some sort of like attack that combines the two weapons in a way that
that
like,
would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what the filling up the meter would look like for something like that. But there's some potential there in my mind where it's like you might be able to do something like a little bit unique depending on the combinations of the weapons that you're using, or even like the elemental combinations of the weapons that you're using as well could be a fascinating sort of thing that happens there. What are your thoughts on that? Like, first off, I guess, do you want to see switch skills come back as is, or do you want to see something else?
I mean, I wouldn't mind switch skills coming back as is. I think for me, more importantly, the switch skills, the portion that I really want is the fact that you can literally switch skills.
Right.
In that you have a lot more customization options on what techniques you're bringing into the fight. Because I think it would be... Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think this is just the same as your scroll system. Where I was going to say, like, if you bring two weapons, like, of the same type of weapons, they'll have just different skills equipped to them, but that's just the scroll, the red and blue scroll system, now that I think about it. But I really do hope that, at the very least, if they don't bring the literal skills themselves, they continue to bring the system where you are able to switch portions of your moveset for other portions, like, of your moveset.
Yeah.
Because that's, like, I think that level of customization is, like, important for me.
Yeah. I'm interested in this game. You know, it's it's one of those rare gaming experiences where I actually kind of like I'm trying to be very mindless with my video games, which is also honestly like tying everything back together. Why I kind of like playing the show is like as boring as it is, boring can also be mindless, and like that's fine. I feel like Monster Hunter, maybe it's because I'm playing it with somebody else, that being you, is that there is a strategic element to it that like kind of exists in a well-balanced way where it's like I can strategize before the fight and like think it through there without like, you know, any kind of like time crunch.
Yes.
And then when it comes time to actually fight, I can still fight mindlessly. Like not fully mindlessly, of course.
Yeah,
like, you know, I would die in the game if I like played that way, but like I can at least like, you know, just be a little bit more button mashy. At least in Rise and World I was able to do that, you know? And I would love to see like that same balance be back in Wilds. One of the reasons I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the terrain that they're talking about is, again, because it reminds me a little bit of Try, and Try seemed a little bit too micromanagey for me. So I am hopeful that like, you know, the modern sort of mechanics remain, because I do also kind of feel like Monster Hunter really gained popularity during like the last 5 years because of just how accessible World was and like how accessible Rise Sunbreak is as well. So I do kind of hope that, and I mean it would be a dumb move for Capcom to not kind of keep a lot of that stuff, so you know maybe I don't need to hope too hard. Yeah, I'm interested, man. Like I think same. I guess we're gonna play it when we can play it, whenever that is, but
yeah, I'm really hopeful for what they're going to bring in like the next, I guess, like not numerical, but like the next mainline like Monster Hunter game.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see like more things revealed as well. Like I know you and I off air were talking about like the specific biomes and the terrains and stuff. I do have some beef with like them starting with this terrain and the color scheme being very PS3 era.
Yeah.
I do have like some annoyances with that stuff. I hope that there's more vibrancy in this game, but
yeah,
my bigger concern is like if there were vibrancy, I feel like, at least from a personal preference, it's very subjective. Like I feel you would want to start with the more vibrant scenery if you had the vibrant scenery, which I'm not seeing in this game. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I really hope that they bring a biome very similar to I don't know if you remember this. I can't remember the name of the area in Monster Hunter World. I think it was the third area where it was very mushroomy and spory. It was like all white, and it's like where you fight. I don't know if you remember Palomu the first time. Very vertical area, but it was a very, I think, unique looking area. It was almost like not a spore colony, but it was weird to see so many blues, like the color blue and the color like purple in not a watery area.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they'll do right by a design standpoint. I think the monsters are going to look great. Pookie Pookie looked interesting in the trailer.
Yes. I actually, speaking of Pookie Pookie, really like the hoodie, like shirt, hat combo.
The armor?
Yeah, I really, okay, one of the things that piece of armor specifically really made me think is they look like clothes instead of they look like armor.
Sure.
And I kind of really like how they look more integrated into, like, I guess, like, I don't know if fashion is the right word, but, like, you know, it looks more modern almost, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Are you saying this is the Hypebeast Monster Hunter game?
I would honestly love a Hypebeast Monster Hunter game.
They're going to be wearing some Supreme clothing.
It's gonna say Devil Joe on it.
Dog, when we were in Japan, like, I had to go to the Supreme store because I was picking something up for Jaren, and that was the first time I bought a Supreme shirt. And I love the shirt. It's for a rap group from Texas, UGK, classic, legends. Bought the shirt, love wearing it. Although I am very hyper aware that, like, it's got a very, like, obvious Supreme logo on the back of it.
Yeah.
So when I'm walking around wearing that, like, I don't feel like, I don't know. It actually makes me self-conscious wearing a Supreme shirt in a way that, like, I haven't been self-conscious wearing most other clothes before. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I want a piece. I want a shirt that just says, like, "Yo, Pookie Pookie" on it.
Just Yo Pookie Pookie or Pookie Pookie?
Yo, Pookie Pookie.
Huh. You can make that shirt.
Yeah, probably.
All right, Matt. Before we wrap up the episode, I know you wanted to ask me a couple of questions.
Yes.
How does this work?
Rakush, you haven't been here in a while, and since you've been gone...
Okay, I can't sing that. Right. Right, yeah.
We have introduced a segment called Don't Match Me. And in this segment, as you're about to learn, and I hope everybody is going to play as they listen, is that I'm going to ask you 5 questions.
Yeah. See, I'm very familiar with this game because most women play that with me on Bumble.
Oh, true. Oh, you're getting... Yo, that's pretty lucky you're getting matches on Bumble.
No, they don't match me on Bumble.
Oh,
Thanks for making me explain that, Ben.
I thought you meant they were just questioning you a lot. But, yeah, so basically what you're trying to do is that I am going to ask you 5 questions, which I am also going to provide answers for. Your answer has to not match my answer. And these questions, as they go on, are going to become more and more specific.
Okay, and you're answering it first.
I will answer it first. Rakush, don't lie. Don't lie to me.
You're not going to know if I'm lying to you or not.
I'm not going to... Rakush, I trust you as a person.
That's a big mistake.
I would trust you with not my life. That's a lot. I would.
Yeah, I was like, don't trust.
I would trust you quite a bit.
That's a lot of responsibility to ask me to trust you with like a life. I don't think I can handle a life. It's.
Rakush, I trust you as a friend that I have podcasted with for over 12 years, I think. 11 or 12 years.
It's the strongest kind of friendship is, doing a podcast together.
The strongest kind of friendship that 2 men can have is that they podcast together.
Okay, all right, let's test out the strong friendship here. What's question number 1?
These are all going to be, I can't remember if I said up the top, this Don't Match Me is going to be Monster Hunter themed.
Gotcha, yeah.
Okay, so question 1, just name any Monster Hunter monster. Just any monster from any series. That's all you have to do. It's a really wide category here. Hopefully, we don't match. So,
okay. How about we answer at the same time? Like, I really feel like answering at the same time and having the same answer would make us better bros,
Okay. Name any Monster Hunter monster.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Devil Joe. Okay.
Oh, Devil Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. Explain why that's the first one that comes to mind to you.
I think Devil Joe is such an iconic monster. It's the notorious green pickle. And I don't know, it's just so iconic in my head that you gotta deal with him.
See, I was thinking Rathian or Rathalos because
That is like the poster child for
well,
Monster
their
Hunter.
names start with the same letters as mine, and I couldn't remember which one is which, so I just went with
true.
whatever came to mind.
True. Okay, so we're gonna get, I think, around the same level of specificness. Actually, I think this might be even more broad. Name any harvestable resource in Monster Hunter. So this can be, stuff like, oh, you want to name ores, you want to name flowers, you want to, name anything like that. Okay, so name any really harvestable resource. So I'm gonna go in 3, 2, 1. Honey.
Blast nut.
Ooh,
Honey.
Blast nut's good. Honey.
Ooh.
Honey, I think, is one of the most important harvestable resources. You
I
get to make mega
potions.
potions.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, I went blast nut because, like,
Got a nut, yeah.
yeah, gotta blast that nut.
Okay, Rakush.
Zing.
Getting slightly more specific.
Okay.
Rakush, third question is, name any Monster Hunter game. Any Monster Hunter game. I believe that there's about like 15 to 20 of these.
Okay, all right, I'm ready.
All right. So, we're going to count down in 3, 2, 1. Monster Hunter Stories. Ooh.
I mean, we were gonna get the first two words
Yeah,
right
yeah,
together, but it's fucking Monster Hunter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, in Monster Hunter Stories, because, trying to get the people who are trying to be sneaky and not, pick a main Monster Hunter
I feel
game.
you. I feel it. So speaking of stories, right? Like, what do you think? What do you want out of the story mode for Wilds?
Honestly, I never really cared too much about like the stories from Monster
Really?
Hunter. It really always is, hey, go to this place, deal with all these monsters that are like rampaging too much. I'll be honest, the amount of kind of like quote unquote story that they showed within the trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds seemed like a lot to me.
Okay, I like the story mode because because our characters are custom characters,
Yeah.
right? It makes our characters feel important in the world. It makes it feel like our characters have grown from the beginning of the game.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I do like the story mode,
Oh, true,
and
true,
I
true.
assume it's gonna be more of that. So yeah.
Okay, Rakush. Question number 4. I think slightly more specific than name any Monster Hunter game. It is name any Monster Hunter weapon.
I need to confirm one thing before I answer that.
Okay.
Now, you don't want like the name of a specific weapon that you build, but just the weapon type.
Yes, the weapon branch. Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah.
So, name any, I guess, like weapon category, I guess, is the correct, more like broad
and we
term.
don't want to match each other.
We don't want to match.
Okay.
Okay, so name any Monster Hunter weapon category in 3, 2, 1.
Charge
Insect
blade.
glaive. Ooh.
I knew you were gonna go insect glaive. I knew it was either insect glaive or the lance gun.
Oh, gun lance?
Gun lance. Sorry,
I was actually between insect glaive and switch axe.
Oh, interesting. See, because I've seen you play with the gun lance before, so I thought you were gonna go with that. So that's why I went charge blade instead.
Yeah. So okay, you're doing really well. Really,
All
really
right,
well.
0 for 4 right now, or 4
Okay.
for 4, however you see
Yeah,
it.
however you want to read it. So now we're going on to the last question,
Uh-huh.
the most specific question. So Monster Hunter has, a lot of kind of like ways to attacking types. You have your standard damage types of like blunt and severing. You have your status types of like, poison, stun, sleep. I believe there's only 5 types of elemental attack or elemental damage. Rakush, name any elemental damage. Or listener as well, name any elemental damage type in Monster Hunter.
Okay.
All right. So in 3, 2, 1,
Water.
ice.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Close.
We're close.
See,
we're close.
I was a little bit scared with this one because I thought you'd go water because of Pookie Pookie.
Pookie Pookie I consider poison.
But you find them in water bodies, mostly in Rise.
I guess.
So that's why I think so.
I think you find them more, like,
at
a
least
lot
when I
in
think of
jungly
Pookie
areas.
Pookie, I think of watery areas, like swampy areas.
Oh, yeah, swampy, yeah.
So that's
can
why I
see
was
that.
like, okay, maybe water. But all right, 0 for 5. 5 for 5.
5 for 5, 0 for 5.
Yeah.
Either way, Rakush, congrats, you've made it through your don't match
I'm
me.
not like Matt Alba. Congratulations.
I hope, everybody else was able to get through unscathed. And, Jaren, if you're listening, I hope you got through as well.
Yeah. Look, Jaren, it gets a little bit easier to watch One Piece after episode like 75. You know, that might sound like a lot, but honestly, like, you know, just that's only like 7 days worth of episodes. You know, I think like what is that, like 20 minutes an episode?
Yeah.
You know, 20 times 75 is what, like 150 minutes? 150 minutes is only like
20 times.
No, wait.
I think you're off by like a factor of 10. Like
I'm off by quite a bit here. 1 second. So 20 minutes per episode, right?
Yes.
75 episodes. Correct? So if you got 75 times 20, that's 1,500 minutes. Thank you. Not 150 minutes. 1,500 minutes is, you know, if you got 24 hours a day, that is 60 times 24 is how many minutes?
That's oh God, no.
1,200. It's, you know, honestly, you just got to do a 24-hour marathon and you'll watch 75 episodes.
I
think the math
that's
adds
right.
up there. I think the math adds
You're
up
going
there.
to read 75 chapters. I question 75 episodes. Unless you're watching them, you know.
Look, I'll do the math.
Unless you're watching them all at once.
I'll do the math right now. If you take 20 minutes per episode, right?
Okay.
Like, give me 1 second here. 60 times 24.
That's not a lot.
1,440 minutes in a day. Okay. 75 times 20 is 1,500. You would be done 76, 77 episodes.
And you know what? Like 5 minutes or so of every episode is just opening and closing.
Is
You don't
opening
even
and
need to watch
closing,
that.
yeah. So like you can just kind of like skip it, you know. And
Easy,
like next thing you know, you'll be done 100 episodes in 24 hours. Just do that 12 times over, and you'll be caught up in no time.
Easy
peasy.
you know?
Peasy. Or if you don't want to do that, you could go check out Godzilla -1 on Netflix, now streaming as of June 1st. So
That's basically One Piece.
basically One Piece.
Basically One Piece.
Matt, what do you, without
Japanese.
having watched One Piece, what do you think the One Piece is going to be?
I honestly expect in some way One Piece to be alive.
See, I think One Piece is going to be literally a One Piece bathing suit. I feel like it's going to be some stupid shit like that.
That would be such a dumb goof.
And I think that's what they're building up towards, because the whole thing about this series is like the dumb goof turns into something actually meaningful and funny. So like this One Piece bathing suit is going to probably be like the thing that like Luffy has to wear to be able to swim underwater because he's got a devil fruit, and like this One Piece bathing suit is like the only thing that lets him swim.
So you say the One Piece is a life jacket?
Yeah. I hope I'm right about that one.
God. I would not be surprised.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here, Jaron. I wish you the best in your recovery of the One Piece.
Yeah. Rakush, thanks for coming over. Thanks for recording this episode, because me and Jaron recorded an episode that was going to fill this week's. It was bad.
It's now lost media.
It is, now lost media, and I don't think I'm even gonna bother editing it, because it was Rakush was very rough. Rakush the episode prior to this episode was me and Jordan talking about the Fallout TV series.
Oh, yeah.
So we thought it would be a good idea to then, how Fallout is just basically pitch it, or has a bunch of vaults that just have a bunch of experiments on them. We just started pitching Fallout vaults. And then about, partway through the episode, we started AI generating Fallout vaults. And
oh, God.
That thing just kind of fell apart. Some of them, honestly, pretty good generations, but then it kind of just started repeating itself, and then the episode slowly tanked itself.
Well, that's what happens when you rely on AI.
Mm-hmm.
But if you rely on RAK, take it away, man.
Our eye.
If you rely on AI, you're not gonna know what you're seeing. But if you rely on our eye, you will see the entire universe.
Yo, how can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't?
Ooh.
Was that the quote?
I don't know, but it sounds profound.
Oh, man. Classic Jaden Smith.
Another profound quote for you, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 5'11", the only difference between you being 5'10" or 5'12" is 5'12", 6 feet. I messed that up. Let's just take it.
This has been The Mistake Zone, and we're all out of annual releases.
Unfortunately, we aren't. They keep coming back every year. Just like this closing.